stuck into questions now, if that's okay. So I would like to invite back Brad to the conversation. So both of you took quite a different angle to these talks, and a lot of it resonated with me. Did you have, either of you have any big, I guess, thinking from each other's talks, or a key takeaway that you liked or wanted to comment on? Maybe Brad, I'll start with you.
Yeah, what I really appreciate about Kyle's approach is there's a very practical, do this and try this thing. There's like low-hanging fruit is a really important step when you're starting and when you're looking to get that initial batch or base layer of clients. We, like I said at the beginning of mine, we get too in the weeds and we think we overcomplicate things. But what's nice, what Kyle's done has shown, okay, spend the next 30 days doing just this and get yourself 5 clients. And then of those 5 clients, then you can start building your reputation and you can start growing that way and getting that network effect to go into motion. Kyle provides a really practical approach for what you can. There's no excuse not to try it. That's what I like.
Yeah, and I love the rawness of it, the realities of it. I think that's what I liked about both of your different talks. They were from different angles, and you can very much see that they're the daily grind. Kyle, did you have any thoughts on Brad's, of your key takeaway?
Yeah. So first of all, I think about a month ago, Brad had like an amazing mustache. He's not really having it now, so I've missed that from the presentation. But besides that, yeah. I mean, look, I've seen a lot of Brad's content. Fun fact: I think even in early 2016, I actually studied a course of his, on Udemy and stuff. So I've always been a big fan of Brad. He knows that. Watched a lot of his stuff. I think what I admire about Brad as a whole, and also in this webinar, is we're essentially saying a lot of the same things, right? But just in different ways, and it can resonate with different people, and that's what I love, because if you type in any topic on YouTube, you can have 10 different people talking about the same thing, but it's how they do it that resonates with different people, I like how Brad went in a lot of the realistic sort of expectations on how you can feel about it, running it like a business, working on it, not in it. Incredibly underrated. So yeah, those are the points that I would personally highlight, because I think that resonates with me as well.
Yeah, no, fantastic. I'd like to go through kind of an approach of starting off with the client acquisition and relationships. So you both took, as you said, two different angles there. Kyle, you focused very much on the realities of sales and the day-to-day grind. Brad, you focused on the community side and building relationships. Brad, I'll start with you. Can you give a specific example of the community, a community that you would recommend or to get involved with that's been quite successful for you?
Yeah. So the reason why I'm so singing the praises of communities from the mountaintops is because I, in practice, have seen its benefits. So I'm a part of a community of. I joined a community that's essentially for creators, for content creators, bloggers, podcasters, authors, speakers. They create content, they create courses. And so as a content creator myself, I know a lot of the issues and the struggles that they suffer with, because I have also dealt with those things as well in that industry and in that space, trying to make money selling courses or trying to build an audience or email marketing, all of these things. Now, I also happen to be a web designer, and I'm very good I have my, as Kyle just said in his last slide, start with what you know and then kind of grow as you go. So in this community, I took an active approach into listening to what people were saying and what they were struggling with. And I would just volunteer my answers. I would jump in and I'd answer the questions. I'd help them out. I'd shoot a quick video and I'd attach it to my comment, show them how to do it. And I would just do this all for free, just to say like, hey, here's how you do it. Here's how I do it. You know what? Try this. And a lot of the times People would say, hey, I need help with my hooking my website up to my email marketing. I'm not really sure what to do here. And they'd have a question. And a lot of the time, people would then jump on that like piranhas, thinking it was a way to get a little bit of money out of somebody and say, I can do this. I could do it for super cheap. I'm a web designer, or I know a little bit of coding, or I know email marketing. I know how to do this. You can hire me, hire me, hire me. Please, please, please. And it was really pathetic. That's the way I saw it. And as somebody who's the original poster, that's repulsive. Well, I don't want anything to do with this. Like, you're not actually trying to help me. You're trying to get a little bit of money out of me too. Like, not even like an honorable amount where you're trying to make like a good living. You're just trying to squeeze a few dollars out of me. And it's kind of gross. So what I would do is I'd turn on my camera, and I've invested in a nice little setup here, and I'd shoot a high production, really good, thoughtful, thorough answer, showing them how to do it right in front of everybody. Something that you would pay for. And I would solve it for them right there in front of everybody. And then inevitably what would happen is, oh my gosh, that was amazing. I'm going to DM you right now. And that DM would lead to, can we get on the phone? Yes, exactly. That's what I offer. Let's get on the phone. We talk. We figure it out. I make an offer. Deal signed. I carry on, and I serve them very well. And that leads to referrals. So that's how communities really, really help. You put in that work of helping, offering, adding value, answering questions, and just being completely valuable for free. Because that leads to building a great reputation and somebody landing in your DMs saying, please help me. Where do I sign up?
Great. No, thank you for that. And it's really insightful. And so we've had a number of questions on both sides coming from two angles. I want to now go more into a different angle of the realities that many freelancers face, which is going into the weeds of cold outreach, which, Kyle, was the angle that you went to. So what outreach platform has been the most and least successful for you? So if you take maybe LinkedIn, email, and is there anyone that has been the most successful, or is it a combination?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. So I'll give my answer, but before I do, I want to just preface it by saying this doesn't mean that it'll work for you, right? Because every niche and every industry is very different. Also, what you say, how you say it, and everything. So, with that said, for me, what works very well is LinkedIn and Twitter as as an outreach. Instagram and Facebook, not as good as LinkedIn and Twitter. That's my answer.
Great. And just a follow-up, so what was one of the approaches you used that was once your most successful outreaches? So what was your go-to? And now what is that one that you no longer use? I love that one.
Okay. So what I don't use is I don't use cold calls.
Did you?
I think, yeah, it was embarrassing. It was sad. I'm just glad it wasn't recorded. That's all I can say. So yeah, I'll answer that with that. No more cold calls. I think I could do it better now, but it just scarred me. So I won't be able to do it anymore. But in terms of the approaches, it's literally exactly what I said, where I would go to a landing page of a client that I want, record a quick Loom with some suggestions, and just send it like, hey, here's some suggestions that I have, no obligations, all the best. And it's amazing what opportunities have come from it. Talking very lucrative monthly retainers, that come from it for clients. So yeah, it's exactly what I said.
Yeah, no, really great. Yeah, I think people forget, like pre-2007, I remember reaching out even to speakers, no LinkedIn, no anything, and you have to call up the reception and try and find somebody who works in a certain job title. So yeah, it's nice to see how things evolve. Going on to the recordings. So Brad, I believe it was you that was talking through the recordings taking 15 to 20 minutes. How do you get the balance? No, actually, this was you, Kyle. Forgive me for it, because both of you covered these topics and both of you can answer. So how do you get the balance of quality versus quantity for recordings and pushing them out? Brad, I might get you to answer that one first.
And is that like in reference to like creating content and publishing content, or?
That is in reference to creating videos and video snippets. So you covered it, but Kyle also covered it as well.
And so say sharing that with a client or a potential
Exactly.
client. And yes. So any helpful video is more valuable than a very pretty unhelpful video. So let's say somebody asks a question in a community or a LinkedIn post or in a forum of some sort, and it's something that you can genuinely help. Just firing up your webcam or shooting an iPhone video on selfie mode by a window, like honestly, that's better than nothing, so long as you can actually genuinely help. Now, with something like loom.com, you can create really easy screen recordings with your webcam in the bottom corner, and you can send a shareable file. It's very, very, very easy. Now, for me, in terms of making the good answer and the good subject matter more palatable or more enjoyable or very pleasant to look at or listen to, well, that's where, as a content creator myself, I've invested in like a nice light and a nice camera and a nice kind of setup, and I figured it out that way. So it's really just the main important key aspect is you should have a good answer, and you could be able to do that with just an audio file. But if you got a good answer and you do this more and more and more, there's nothing wrong with looking and sounding nice while doing it, because it's just delivered it in a more palatable package. Now, that's a priority that I have. I've seen people who've done the same strategy, which was like a real sketchy webcam video, and it's been amazing because they solved the problem.
Great. And Kyle, can you answer the same question?
Yeah, sure. So, I would just say that a video is better than no video. And as Brad was speaking, it reminded me of like Picasso, because there's actually a lot of studies done, especially by like a guy named Malcolm Gladwell, and Adam Grant and those sort of psychologists in a way, where they studied the whole concept of quantity leads to quality, and they sort of justify that is what happens, and I would actually challenge I would say most people in the chat to look at their favorite YouTubers. And if you look at the very first video, if they still keep it live, very often it's quite embarrassing, and they actually feel a bit embarrassed, about some of their content. And I think that's a good thing because it's progression, but again, I would circle back to say a video is better than no video, because I think the issue with a lot of people today is it's perfectionism. And if you worry about perfectionism and overthink things, you just don't do it. You just overthink it and you just don't do it. So take action, do it, and improve as you go. And I think the quantity will lead to quality.
Great. And a quick follow-up, Kyle, for you on the commitment. So you get down the funnel of a sales. You obviously want to spend the majority of your time doing the work and not having to do sales, but it's a fact of life. How do you best secure the commitment? How do you get to that sales step?
I think it's important to understand why you are doing it, because if you like as a freelancer, right, or as an agency owner, or whatever you do, you've got stuff to do, right? And let's say you work 8 hours a day, you can't be working in your business. As Brad said, you need to work on your business, and to work on it, you have to do sales. You have to work on getting more clients. So I use an example of the Valley income. When freelancers get this big client and they're like, yeah, amazing, and they just keep working 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and then the client leaves for whatever reason, and then like, whoa, what just happened? I'm starting over from scratch. So I think it's so important to prioritize it and have the mindset of when my client leaves, not if. And that will give perspective on you to always do, continuous outreach, even if, let's say, you've got 8 hours in a day, even if you just do 2 hours a day, to focus on getting those clients. You have to do it. Otherwise, eventually, you're not going to have a sustainable business. That's my opinion.
I love that. Yeah. Brad, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, it's really, like I said, my motto is to going for no. Don't be afraid to just push forward and do something that is likely to fail or not lead to you getting a client. And so, I think it's just really important that you see the whole thing as, you're a business owner, understanding your why. As Kyle said, if you're doing a hard thing, like you're on a call with like a lead, maybe you don't do cold calls, but you have someone who booked a call through your site, or they heard about you, a referral, and you're on the call and they're kind of asking you questions like, why would I hire you? Why do I need a website? Or, oh, I didn't know you're going to charge that much. Like, why that much when I could get someone cheaper on Fiverr or something like that? If you don't know why you're doing it, you don't have a good anchor to draw from, then you're going to be really easily kind of knocked over, or kind of washed ashore. You want to have a good anchor and a good why. So like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this hard thing? And if you have a good answer for that, like it's providing for your family, or it's freedom, or it's venturing into an area that allows you to build a lifestyle that's really meaningful to you, or it contributes to something bigger than you, then you're like, yeah, I'll do the hard thing. I'm happy to be embarrassed on this call. I'm happy to be shaky on this call, because the more I do it, the better I'm going to get. And the more hardy you will become, and because it's all in service to like kind of a bigger objective and a bigger why.
Yeah, I love that. And that leads me on to something, Brad, that you touched on almost in the very beginning of your talk, which was around work-life balance. Being either in a freelancer or an agency trying to constantly please multiple clients, work-life balance is a challenge, and for everybody. What is the single most important change that you have made for your work-life balance? And Kyle, the same question is going to come for you too.
The single most important change would be, this is something that I think has evolved and I've gotten better with over time. But the idea was planted a long time ago when I first started freelancing. So I figured this out pretty quickly, and it's probably taken me years to get great at it. And I'm much better at it now. But it was when I first started, and you had this abundance of time. You weren't no longer working at a job, and you're running your own business. Well, and especially if you're running it from home on a computer, you can kind of never stop working. You can always be working. You can work all day. You can work into the evening. You can work on the weekends. Now we've got, these really incredible devices in our pockets, but that also means that now you're working in between moments. You have moments where you're constantly kind of like jabbing yourself with a little bit of work, and it's never escaping your mind. And it's brutal. It's like torture. And as much as I love what I do, I actually love my family more. And I love my being able to do things with my family more. The only reason I work and do what I do is because it's in service of my family. It's not the other way around. And so I have a clear priority set. And so when I started realizing, and my wife was realizing, hey, like you're kind of always in work mode. You're thinking, I could see you're not there. Like we're eating dinner, or we're out, or we're going for a walk, and you're like, you're not there. Like, oh, I'm thinking about that client, or that email I just looked at after work hours and they were angry, and then I'm thinking about it and have to solve it. And you're like, no, there's boundaries, and the client can wait. The client can wait. The job can wait. The project can wait. The initiative can wait. The career can wait. Take it, put it in its box, and give it its proper attention when you're doing it. Set those boundaries. And when you're done, it's just like hard cut off. Oh, sorry, I'm not working. I am Dad Brad right now. I have nothing to do with any of that. And so that's taken time to really implement, and I'm much, much more disciplined and better at it now. But I realized that a long time ago when the two blurred together. Create some clear boundaries and stick to them.
Great. And Kyle, what about you? What's been your single most biggest change for a better work-life balance?
Yeah, so I actually like what Brad said. I'll just maybe say exactly what he said, but maybe in a different way. So for me, it's very much about being intentional about it, and also like him, I just got better at it over the years, and I sort of came to the realization that I need to create a business around my desired lifestyle and not the other way around. So I had to be intentional about that. Whereas a lot of people, they'll have their lifestyle around their business, but that's not what I wanted to do. So look, at the moment, for transparency, it's extremely busy for me because I'm working on very different stuff at the moment, managing quite a few people and everything. And it's amazing. I love what I do. And I think that's also a problem, when you really love what you do, where it's actually a hobby and you wake up excited on a Monday morning to actually get started. So yeah, just to wrap up, intentional and desired, or let's say a business around your desired life.
And that leads on to a perfect kind of transition from you've hit the jackpot on your freelancing, and you have now secured many clients, and you're moving into almost like an agency world. How do you manage that growth, or what do you think is the key in that intermediary? How do you manage that growth? Kyle, maybe you could start first on that transition because you touched on it there.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's many ways to do this, right? For me, I've been bootstrapped, the whole time, and I'm very intentional about ROI, growth, strategy, time. So at the moment, I work with about 10 or 12 different people, contractors / full-time employees and stuff. And it's hectic. You have to be intentional. You have to, as Brad explained, and I like his, what was it, that EDA or something? Brad, you can touch on it, because I think that, that explains it. Yeah. Like outsourcing, delegating, and that type of thing. Yeah. And I think you have to be intentional about that. So yeah, that's sort of where I'll leave that. I think it's important to outsource. You don't want to be the one really doing the work. You want to also utilize a lot of tools. You want to work smart, not hard, as cliche as that sounds, but it's true. So yeah, that's my 2 cents. I'm curious to know what Brad says.
Yeah, that's great. It's like if you're growing, you're inevitably going to bottleneck. You're going to reach tension, and there's going to be friction, and it's going to be problematic. Now, that's a good sign of a growing business. If you're like, I've got like so many clients coming in right now, and I can only do 2 of these projects at once, and I've got this, and there's all these emails, and there's this, you're like, hey, congratulations. Like, that means you are growing. But what are you doing about it? You're just trying to manage it all and trying to put out fires. Well, guess what? That growth that turns into friction and kind of tension, if it's not addressed, it's actually going to create a big issue for you. It's going to implode. It's going to catch fire, whatever metaphor you want to use. It's going to be a problem. Right now, it's not. It's a sign you're growing. But you need to, let's say it's a garden that's growing. You need to give it more space. You need to create another box and transplant some things over here. You need to expand something, or you need to cut back. Maybe you've already reached this is all I need. This is enough and more, but I don't need this extra. So maybe I need to cut clients. Maybe I need to turn off the funnel, or maybe I need to pause. But more realistically, what's going to happen is you're growing and you're bottlenecking. And so that's where you trigger that EDAK method: eliminate, delegate, automate, keep. Revisit that when you feel like you're getting overwhelmed and things are starting to pile up and your to-do list is getting bigger than your to-done list. It's like you got to look at it and go, okay, this thing I'm doing this exact moment. Like, let's say use this presentation, for example. It's on my to-do list. Today, it was needed to be executed. I would look at it and go, is this something that is necessary? Yes. So I'm not going to eliminate it. So, okay, what's next? Is this something that needs to be done by a human? Absolutely. Does that human need to be me? Yes. Okay. That's on my keep list. I will give that attention. Now, my growing, let's say I'm publishing a bunch of YouTube videos. Do I need to be the one coming up with all the descriptions and the thumbnails and the tags and the SEO and all that stuff? I can spend days doing that. I don't need to be the one doing it. So I pay for somebody else to do it for me. So it happens in tandem with me doing something like this. While I'm doing this, 5 or 10 other things are happening as a part of my one-man company, because I have delegated by hiring subcontractors and people to help, or systems and automations, that eliminate, delegate, automate, keep. revisit that as you start to get overwhelmed and as you grow. That will relieve the bottleneck temporarily until you grow further. And then you do it again and you keep going.
Yeah, love it. That is amazing. Thank you both. I will finish up because we're out of time, but I would like to ask you both, is there anything that wasn't covered that you might like to touch on or leave a lasting note for people who were listening in? Maybe. Yeah.
No, yeah, for me, I'll just say, like, it'll just really hammer down the point of like joining a community, and there's lots you can join. I would be remiss if I didn't recommend both mine and Kyle's. They both serve similar but different areas of this type of business. So creativecrewcommunity.com. These people, if you're growing in this industry, are your peers, are your partners, are your referral sources, are your mentors, people you can learn from, people you can serve and help, possibly even potential client sources. So doing this not in a vacuum is really important, because you might walk away from this and have all these cool and inspiring ideas. But then as soon as it gets hard, which it will tomorrow, then you'll just go back to flatline. But you need help, you need guidance, you need support. And that's what a community does.
Amazing. And Kyle?
Yeah, I think I would also highlight that with Brad. So when I started freelancing in 2015, I had an accountability partner friend, and we would meet once a month, chat about the goals and the journey and the progress and everything, and just for a year, and that really helped me. So I think communities are underrated. The accountability is underrated, that you don't have to feel like you have to do it alone. And then just in terms of like parting advice, I guess, I mean, there are many ways to do it, right? And people have different opinions about how to do it and everything. But I think it's important that it gets done. Something is done. And a lot of the time that what I've seen, a big hurdle is often a mental hurdle. You know, people are worried about what happens if I fail? What happens if it doesn't work? You know, and all of these things. And I think freelancing / building an agency, building a business, whatever, it's incredible. It's amazing if you look at what comes from it. But the thing is, the hardest part is the starting part. And I want to encourage everyone to give it an honest attempt for a year. You can even do it on the side. That's exactly what I did on a full-time job. It was difficult, but trust me, I'm grateful to my younger self for making those compromises and everything, along the way. And don't be afraid to fail. Making mistakes and looking a bit weird, in doing things, that's how we grow. And I want to encourage you that you can do it. Again, start with what you know and learn as you go. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Get comfortable with being uncomfortable. I think what you've both summarized really kind of demonstrates today. You brought two totally different angles to two very similar perspectives. So I thought you've been, for me, some of the most complementary speakers together. So I hope you do more stuff together. One of the big topics that we didn't get a chance to cover that maybe you could cover on your blogs would be around what's the common mistakes agencies and freelancers make in their first year in terms of failure. That has been a big one in terms of people asking that we didn't get to cover. Thank you both. I would strongly recommend everybody check out each person's website. This is live streamed. It is also recorded, and it will be available on the UXDX site. It will be available on our YouTube channel as well, and the links to both Brad and Kyle's communities will be down on the bottom of each, particularly on our website that you will be most likely watching right now. Thank you both again. I really enjoyed that, and I hope to get to talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine. Thanks,
Bye.
Brad. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.